So I am working on the wing, which takes one servo, which the manufacturer recommends 10 kilograms. So the problem that I found in here is how that servo mounts. So in the DerJet manual, they say that you need a ball link because it doesn't align correctly, the way the servo mounts and the way the sort of flap aileron wants to get attached to. And so what I found is when I put the servo in, because of the way the bulkhead is in there, it's at an angle, so you can see that there's a bulkhead that sits sort of like that, and that's this guy all the way back here. So that's this guy back here. It sits at an angle, which means it's deeper in the front than in the back. So when I tried to put a servo in there, it didn't quite fit, and this is just a standard servo. So what I had to do is cut a block of plywood and figure out, I think it was about 10 millimeter difference from where the bulkhead is to where the servo ears want to mount, and just glue that in place. So now when my servo sits here, instead of sitting sort of like that, it now sits flush and parallel to this, and it looks like that also is the angle at which that the flap horn in there, that guy, wants to sort of sit at. So I'd recommend just gluing a block of plywood. Obviously, because of the way this sits, the reason I gouged out a little bit of here is so that you can get the servo in, because of the wire coming out the front. So, without that, the servo doesn't actually want to fit in there, because like I said, tolerances are tight. I also just ground this back a little bit, sort of like, used to be straight, sort of like an angle like that, so that the servo just slides in. And I think that is gonna be what I want to do. So here's what I came up with for my aileron slash flap servo. I'm using this 25T metal horn, and it turns out with the way I decided to mount things, which is, let's see if I can show this again, which is with that block of wood glued in there so that the servo kind of sits at an angle. With the flap linkage coming into the back of the servo like this, the geometry works out pretty well. So I'm just gonna insert it like that, put a lock nut, and then the clevis is gonna be what's gonna be hooking onto the flap surface. And the reason I chose this is because there's a really tiny hole already done for you there, and it seems to just fit this perfectly. So I'm gonna drop that in there, and after closing the linkage together, I might drop a little bit of solder on here just to make sure that that doesn't come apart. So here's the end result, and the servo seems to work really well. Let's go into, so not a problem there. And in terms of the geometry, let's see what's the best way to do this. I can't really show this here, but I'm impressed. It's pretty much as straight as you can get it in there. So if you see that, yeah, so I'm happy with that. With that linkage coming from the back of the servo, it's pretty much a straight shot to the aileron and/or flap. So you can see that there a little bit. That's a much better shot. So it's a pretty straight shot, and I'm happy about that. So just gotta repeat that on the other control surface, and we're gonna be done with the aileron and slash flap servos. Alright, so with the servos on the wing done, the way the wing attaches to the jet is there is a spar that goes through here, and there's an anti-rotation pin in the front, and then a set screw. So the set screw that's in here takes a 2mm driver, and I just get it in there, and we can loosen that or tighten it to get the wing off. So it kind of pinches down on this on the carbon fiber spar. Let me see if I can show that. Oh, that's really deep in there. Alright, so you can see that spar right there, and here's your anti-rotation pin, and you can see sort of where the that set screw pinches down on the carbon spar, and this is a solid carbon rod, so should work pretty well. And that's how this attaches to the fuselage. So we are back on the wing, and I had to take the servo out. That's because I wanted to add the light. So I got the I got these uni lights that I'm adding onto the jet, and I wanted it to look scale. So this guy is a steady on red with a blinking white, and I have fished out all the wires out to this point. That wasn't easy, so I wound up testing this out. So you can see that I drilled this hole here and this one. This was previously just all covered up, but I wanted to figure out a way to get to that point. So what I wound up doing is making a big hole here, and then if you can see through that, you might not be very clear, but let's see if I can get some light in there. And you can see just drilling through all the way till I got to the end of the wing right here. And then I also drilled another hole. There's just a single sort of rib that goes across here, and I just drilled through that using this big hole. And then so all of these wires are gonna get passed in there, and they'll all come out through this spot, and my servo connector is gonna go here. This really long drill bit, and you can see how long that is. So it'll get all the way from one end of the wing straight through, and I got these from Harbor Freight. And so it was just basically, once I got this hole open, just drilling right through all the way to the end, and then shining a light, a very bright light on the top skin here, and looking through this spot to see that light shine through. So if I look in there, it kind of looks dark, but as you get a light, you can barely see. Let's see. Yeah, you can. So if I take the light away, you can see the light shining all the way in the distance there, and that's all I needed to figure out that I'm actually drilling my hole correctly. So what's left now is routing the wires to this point and attaching my connector. I have 6 wires here, so I think I'm gonna use the AR or Boomer RC one-click system, and I'll show you once that's done. So again, here's what that access looks like from the servo, and you can see let's see, all the way down in there, the other hole that I made in the bulkhead that gives me access from here to right here where my light currently is, where all my light wire is going to come through. Servo connectors, wing connectors, this is what I'm going to be using. These are the AR BRC 774, and they are 6 connectors. So you can use them for 2 servos, or in my case, I'm going to use it for a servo, and then the uni lights will plug into that. And then I guess it's this guy. And then this side is what's going to get mounted right on the aircraft wing, kind of like back here somewhere. So maybe this is going to get cut, and then we're going to mount this piece, and that goes right through and gives you that nice solid connection. One click and we're done. So here's a quick shot of the routing of those wires. So you can see the light wires. Let's see if I can get this out of the way. How they come in from in here. See, there they are in the background. Go through bulkhead there, or rib, and then come out right through here. So now I'm gonna reinstall the flap aileron servo and finish off the connector here. Almost done with my wing and all the connections, but I thought I'd take a moment to explain why I like these AR connectors. Essentially, these guys. Whoops. Why I like these AR connectors. So you can see that the connector comes off the wing and essentially gives you the pins, and this is what plugs in. And the way AR builds these is that they just come out to a servo connection. So if I now want to test anything on my wing, I don't have to cut and solder anything. It's just there, and you just plug it in, and before you know it, everything just works. So that's one of the advantages, and it gets really good once I show you how the opposing end gets attached onto the fuselage. If you've seen my previous videos, you've probably seen that I use that connect on the F39. It's just very convenient and looks very clean. The final result of what the wing side looks like. The connector's stowed in here and it can be pulled out if needed, but I think that looks really clean. So you can see 6 pins in there, 3 for the servo and 3 for the unilights. So I'm going to plug in the unilights, check that everything's done, and then we're going to repeat this same process on the other wing. So here's the other side of the wing, and you can see that the AR connector has been screwed in place. I just need to add a block of wood on the back and seal off that hole, which is a previous hole where the servo connector went. So with that, then we get this really nice plug and connect interface where we just rotate the the wing in place, click it in right here, so like that, and then just push the wing in all the way, put our set screw in place, and the wing connection is done. So I really like that setup, and I'm going to repeat that on the other side.